Happy Friday and happy Fridays with Fidelman. I'm Cheryl Fidelman, the Conscious Codependence Coach and the founder of the Conscious Codependence Collective. So today on Fridays with Fidelman, I'm going to talk about what I call codependent grief. So I just spoke about this in a grief series where I was one of, I think, 21 or 22 speakers, and I want to elaborate on what I call codependent grief because I've received a lot of emails from some of you really talking about how that idea really hit home. So please like or press subscribe to this channel, and here we go. For many of us who identify as codependent and are at some point in our codependence recovery, we experience this moment where it's like we wake up to a new version of ourselves and we go, I can't believe I was sleeping for so many years. I can't believe I was that version of myself. I can't believe I had so many of these codependent, automatic, autopilot tendencies in relationship, and I wasn't aware of it. And for much of that time, it seemed as if it was everybody else's fault. They weren't giving me the attention I needed, or they weren't giving me the validation I needed, or they were abusing me, or they had some sort of dysfunctional behavior. And this is in intimate relationships or friendships, at home, in the family. It looked like it was everybody else's fault. Why we weren't having sustained, safe, intimate, and intimate could mean romantic or platonic, but authentic, deep relating, right? It seemed as if it was everybody else's fault. And at some point we go, oh, I helped create that. Not only did I help create that level of consistent dysfunction and not being able to sustain healthy relationships, but a lot of my own behaviors came from my unhealed trauma as a child. It's like all of a sudden we go, oh my gosh, I've recreated my childhood in my adult life. And we go, it's like a shock when we become aware of a newer version of ourselves. It's a shock to what has been running the show this whole time. And where the grief comes in, what I call codependent grief, is when we start grieving that time lost. And that grief is filled with denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, which are the fundamental stages of any grief process. When we wake up at some point and we go, wow, I have been doing this codependent manipulation, right? Where we want somebody else to change or contort their behavior in order for us to feel safe. But we're not consciously thinking that. But we're people pleasing and changing and helping somebody else for them to change their behavior so that we can ultimately have the kind of safe connection that we want to have, as opposed to learning how to accept the potential unchangeability and unteachability of another person, that being in a mentorship role is actually not our place, but we learned how to be in a mentorship role at a very young age. For a lot of us, we had to teach or change or be of service to our family's reality on some level, so we grow up learning to be in service to somebody else's reality. And then when we have this awareness, we go, oh wow, this whole time I've been in service to other people's reality and not in service of my own. All of this time I've been thinking, if they would just see me, if they would just understand me, if they would just validate me. And then we wake up and go, I didn't see myself, I didn't understand myself, and I didn't validate myself. And the type of validation that we were desiring earlier on in our codependence recovery was the same validation we were wanting from our parent or sibling or the kids at school, whoever was the dominant force when we were children, that sort of encased us and shut us down into our traumatic identity. Our codependent personality is what I call our traumatic identity. That identity, that persona that was created in order for us to survive our parents' psychology. So now as we wake up to it, we go, oh my gosh, that person that I had to be to survive my parents' psychology, I've been that person in one or more of my relationships. So when we look back and their codependent grief hits us when we have this sort of awareness of the history of ourselves and the history of our identity, it's easy to go through deny it. Oh my God, no way was I like that. No way was I that person. No way was I perpetuating my own misery, that I was the source of it. Not to say that nobody else was at play and nobody else played a role, but to look at it how we perpetuated it without leaving, without having boundaries, without formulating a self in that relationship. The self just became the survival self to survive that relationship. And that would be consistently being in one or more of my 3 tenets of codependence, which is the want to be wanted, the need to be needed, and or the need to prove oneself. So we're stuck in one or more of those places for potentially years in one or more relationships. So when we wake up to this, we may experience denial. We may experience anger, like we're angry at ourselves for putting ourselves through that, myself included. I was in a 3.5-year, very abusive relationship. And for about 5 years after it was over, I had so much anger. Angry at the person, and then I started being angry at myself. Why am I angry at that person? I could have left. I could have left after the first week, the first month, the first year. Why did I put myself through that? So that I'm angry at myself, so angry at myself. And then there's bargaining, right? Like replaying old conversations over and over and over again, and replacing the sentence, like replacing the dialogue for what I thought I should have said, right? Or standing up for myself in retrospect. Trying to find some resolve or completion over and over. Oh, if I would have said this, or if I would have said that, or if I have the opportunity again, this is how I would do it, right? So bargaining, right? I call that codependent grief or a codependent hangover. And then we can move into depression, like being really sad and weighed down by this passing of time. That I waste those years being another version of myself? How could I, feeling the pain, and this is a huge piece of it, which is I wasted time. I don't have that time left. So when we're really deep in codependent grief, it can, and I've had clients in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, no matter what age, when they're going through codependent grief, they go, I screwed it all up. I messed it up. I don't have any time left. They could be 28, they could be 38, they could be 58. And the perception of time is like, because I spent my life that way, I messed it up for the future. I'm done. Which isn't true. I always say that however many years you have left, okay, let's say you're 55, you could potentially have 30 years left if you live an average American lifespan. I always say, live and dream and plan as if you have 30 years left, and move as fast as if you have 30 days left. Don't look at the time you've wasted, look at the time you have. So then we start to move into acceptance, which is fundamentally or foundationally the 5th sort of stage of any grieving process. So I'm bringing that into this idea that I call codependent grief. Which is acceptance. We accept that the past is how it went. And when we accept that the past is how it went, we realize, well, life could be potentially about overcoming. This was provided for me so I can have the opportunity to overcome. And when there's acceptance and the opportunity to overcome, then you move through what's called transformation, metamorphosis, into the you that you were born to be. So I think that that's all I have today on codependent grief. I could talk forever about it because it's a huge phase. It could be 6 months, it could be 6 years. This codependent grief, not releasing the shame and humiliation and all of the feelings that we feel, have in looking back in retrospect to who we were and how we were. So just a few announcements. The replay of my Conscious Codependent series is happening just through the weekend. Okay, so I know this is a YouTube video. If you're watching this next week, then the link below probably won't work, but you can still see my Conscious Codependent series where I talk about my theories around codependent listening. So go ahead and click the link in the description box if you want to sign up for the replay. And also you can receive my free gift. It's a viewer free gift, free gift for the viewers to book a free Conscious Codependence session with me. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening to my thoughts, theories, and rants. Happy healing. Happy Friday. Have an awesome weekend. And life is now.